This is Top Accolade Global News Updates. I am Soibifa Jackrich. Donald Trump's rivals for the Republican presidential nomination took to the debate stage on Wednesday night in his absence, seeking a way to dislodge the former president from his commanding lead in the opinion polls, while contenders such as Florida Governor Ron DeSantis and former UN Ambassador Nikki Haley briefly criticized Trump. The latest episode did not appear any likelier to alter the dynamics of a race that Trump has dominated for months. The candidates spent much of the 2-hour event assailing one another as they strove to emerge as Trump's chief opponent with less than 10 weeks before the first statewide nominating contest in Iowa. They will have another opportunity on December 6th when a fourth debate will take place in Alabama. For his part, Trump held a rival event nearby where he mocked the participants and demanded that the Republican Party stop wasting time with unwatchable debates. With only 5 candidates qualifying for the stage, DeSantis and Haley were joined by U.S. Senator Tim Scott, former New Jersey Governor Chris Christie, and entrepreneur Vivek Ramaswamy. It was less chaotic than previous encounters. At one point during a discussion about whether to ban TikTok, Ramaswamy noted that Haley's daughter had used the app, prompting Haley to warn him angrily not to mention her daughter again. Haley, who also served as South Carolina governor, and DeSantis, who has been in a distant second place behind Trump for most of the campaign, had their own clash over which governor had been too welcoming to Chinese investments. Most of the candidates voiced support for banning TikTok, owned by a Chinese company, over national security concerns. Even Ramaswamy, who has defended using the app as a way to connect with young Republican voters. Shell is suing Greenpeace for $2.1 million in damages after the environmental group's activists boarded the company's oil production vessel in transit at sea this year. According to Greenpeace and a document seen, the British oil and gas major filed the claim in London's High Court. Greenpeace activists boarded the vessel in January near the Canary Islands of the Atlantic coast of Northern Africa to protest oil drilling and traveled on it as far as Norway. Shell confirmed legal proceedings were taking place when asked whether it was suing Greenpeace over the incident, but declined to comment on the claim amounts. Boarding a moving vessel at sea was unlawful and extremely dangerous, a Shell spokesperson said. The vessel was destined for the Penguins oil and gas field in the North Sea, which is not yet in production. 4 Greenpeace activists used ropes to hoist themselves onto the vessel from inflatable boats that chased the ship at high speed. Protests at sea against oil, gas, or mining infrastructure have long been part of Greenpeace operations. The damages Shell is seeking include costs related to shipping delays and expenses for extra security, as well as legal costs. The group said Shell offered to reduce its damage claim to $1.4 million if Greenpeace activists agree not to protest again at any of Shell's oil and gas infrastructure at sea or in ports. Greenpeace said it will only do so if Shell complied with a 2021 Dutch court order to cut its emissions by 45% by 2030, which Shell has appealed. A claim for additional damages of around $6.5 million by one of the Shell's contractors, Fluor, is unresolved according to the document seen. Fluor did not immediately respond to a request for comments. Shell and Greenpeace have held negotiations since the case was filed, but talks ended in early November, Greenpeace said, adding it was now waiting for Shell to file further documents in court. Greenpeace said it will then consider its next step, including ways to stop the case from proceeding. Nvidia is planning to release 3 new chips for China, local media reported on Thursday, weeks after the US blocked it from selling 2 high-end artificial intelligence chips and one of its top gaming chips to Chinese firms. The Star Market daily news outlets, citing people familiar with the matter, said that the chips are called the HGX, H2O, L2O PCLE and L2 PCLE, and that Nvidia could announce them on November 16th at the earliest. Last month, the US AI chip giant said new export restrictions announced by Washington would block it from selling two of its modified advanced AI chips, the A80 and H800, both of which were created for the Chinese market last year to comply with previous export rules. One of the company's top-of-the-line gaming chips, the L408 chip, which is announced in August, would also be affected, it said. On October 24th, Nvidia said those curbs would take immediate effect as US regulators had sped up an original deadline. Nvidia had commanded more than 90% share of China's $7 billion AI chip market, and analysts have said the US curbs are likely to create opportunities for domestic firms such as Huawei Technologies to make inroads. Chinese internet giant Baidu placed a sizable order for Huawei AI chips this year. Sources have said one said Baidu had done so before the US curbs were announced, as it was preparing for a future when it would no longer be able to purchase from Nvidia. U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken said on Thursday he and South Korea's Foreign Minister Park Jin share profound concerns about the growing military cooperation between North Korea and Russia. Blinken and Park also said they discussed working together to implement a so-called extended deterrence strategy of countering threats from North Korea and furthering strategic cooperation with Japan. Already, our three countries are taking steps to improve our joint response through real-time sharing of DPRK missile warning data, trilateral defense exercises, and efforts to counter DPRK's malicious cyber activities. DPRK, the Democratic People's Republic of Korea, it's North Korea's official name. The United States, South Korea, and Japan have condemned what they say is the flow of arms and military equipment from North Korea to Russia, saying movement of cargo from the reclusive states to Russia and was evidence. North Korea and Russia have denied any arms deal, though their leaders pledged closer military cooperation when they met in September in Russia's Far East. North Korea is preparing to launch a spy satellite after having failed twice this year to put one in orbit. South Korea said last week North Korea was in the final stages of preparations for a launch after apparently getting technical help from Russia. South Korea's military said on Monday it was on alert after North Korea's designated November 18th as Missiles Industry Day to mark its launch of an intercontinental ballistic missile last year. The U.S. Senate voted 50 to 48 to overturn President Joe Biden's decision to waive some Buy America requirements for government-funded electric vehicle charging stations, but the White House said he would veto the measure. The White House argued the Republican bill would eliminate entirely the domestic manufacturing requirements for government-funded electric vehicle (EV) chargers, thereby harming domestic manufacturing and American jobs. Senate Democrats Sherrod Brown, Joe Manchin, John Tester, and Independent Kristen Sinema joined Republicans in voting to reject the regulation. The Federal Highway Administration (FHWA) in February agreed to waive some requirements until July 2024, saying it will enable EV charger acquisition and installation to immediately proceed. Congress has set aside $7.5 billion to fund electric vehicle charging stations. The funding is crucial to the Biden administration's plans to ramp up electric vehicle sales. As a result, the 1983 Reagan administration decision to exempt manufactured products from Buy America requirements would again apply, meaning EV chargers would not be covered by any Buy American requirements, the White House said. Republican Senator Marco Rubio challenged the White House arguments, arguing the administration could separately rescind the 1983 decision at any time. Rubio said the waiver would allow government funds to go into the hands of Chinese companies to build electric vehicle charging stations. EV chargers require iron and steel for some of their most crucial parts, including the internal structure frame, heating and cooling fans, and the power transformer. Chargers with cabinets that house the product require even more steel, making up to 50% of the total cost of the chargers in some cases. US states and companies warn global demand for EV chargers is straining the supply chain, making it difficult, if not impossible, to meet made in America standards and expedite construction of new chargers. That is the size of top accolade global news updates. You can follow us on all social media platforms as displayed on your screen. Happy Thursday.